Aromie here. Welcome back to our live Baxter DLC. We are here. I forgot we were at this live action play type of thing. He directed this apology to Baxter. I shouldn't have gotten angry. There's nothing wrong with your hair. Don't worry. I saw you holding those flowers and lost my cool. He chuckled bleakly. That's on me. I'm the problem here. At this, he hung his head and slouched where he stood. I can't believe she'd run away like that, screaming as if she'd seen a ghost, like I was the worst thing in the world. Is it really that awful being around me? Am I really that bad? His voice was thick with emotion, pain behind every word. There was barely a dry eye in the whole building. A chorus of sympathy rose up from the people around you, sounds of comfort and encouragement in equal measure. The tender walked behind his bar and came to rest his palms flat on the counter. His thick arms spread wide. I wish I knew what to do, you know? If only there were something, anything. It was a frank admission laden heavy with resignation. He bowed his head again and was silent. There was a pointed pause. Into it, you heard Baxter gently clear his throat.
Honestly?
If you'll permit me to say, it can be hard to know what to do in these kind of situations, but the important thing is that it's making you unhappy. Once you realize that, it should at least be obvious what not to continue doing. Dancing around your feelings like this will only lead further and further from what you want, so why stick to the same old tune? The bartender gradually lifted his face to peer up at Baxter with an inscrutable expression. If you like the charming singer, then what could you ever have to gain by insisting otherwise? You don't need to propose or anything equally drastic, but why push her away when all you want is to get closer? His voice gained a faint little cadence, almost like he was a singer too, before it tapered away to nothing. Is he blushing? On the countertop, you saw the bartender clench a fist. You got me pegged, you and everyone else in the joint, so I like her already. What good is that? She thinks I'm a joke. She wouldn't be seen dead with someone like me. We all know that too. You saw what just happened. Am I supposed to make myself look like an idiot, waltz on over and tell her we should be pals? I'd be straight up begging to be laughed at. I couldn't take it. Not from her. My friend's right, you know, you're only making it worse, but what you're doing, you're already embarrassing yourself. It's always hard to put yourself out there, but isn't it better tthan the alternative? You stayed silent but smacked compassion at him. You watched with bated breath, eager to see what happened. Again, you can talk, but I don't think they would really pay attention to you, right? No, I'm gonna choose this one though. The bartender inclined his head to you as if to acknowledge what you'd said but did not otherwise react. You were still a designated non-participant despite having spoken.
I get it.
I understand the concern. You needn't go for any further than you're able. The key is that you step forward in the first place, or at least resist the urge to continue moving backwards. When the time comes, don't pull away. You'll only regret it later. The bartender rested one arm across the counter, easing into a stance that was more casual. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. His body language was loosening up. You gathered that he was mulling over what had been said, taking it all in. After a short while, he cracked a cautious grin. You know, it's usually other people who want me to listen to their problems, and by listening, I mean I just help them pick a poison. You know, blunt the edges when nothing else can. Never thought I'd be on the receiving end, though. He wrapped a knuckle on the countertop and straightened up suddenly. Ah, shoot, I forgot the ice with the drink. I'm being really sloppy tonight, letting personal stuff get in the way of business. Sorry about that. He began to walk towards the heavy curtain, his black shoes echoing loudly on the floor. Let me go take care of that, and maybe cool myself off for a sec while I'm at it. With a click of his heel and a swish of the curtain, he was gone. Now what? Became the unspoken consensus of the audience. An answer came shortly. Psst! It was in the form of a loud hiss from the other side of the room, from behind the counter where the singer had vanished. Your focus swung back to see the lady in question poking her head out, shy as a dormouse. Dormouse? She cupped her fingers around her mouth, keeping to a stage whisper. Is he gone? Various dissenting voices chimed in. Baxter flashed her a quick thumbs up. Seeing that the coast was clear, Singer's head vanished for a brief instant before reappearing, the rest of her following along with it. She swanned her way, oh my god, what the fuck? Swanned her way into the main area, oozing feigned confidence. All the terror of her departure had gone. Hastily pasted over as though nothing had happened. She brought up a hand to shade her eyes, casting a look around the room. Her immaculately lipsticked lips parted. As my dear, delightful, meddlesome friend decides to finally beat it too. Not yet. The friend's voice called out from somewhere behind you. While everyone's attention had been elsewhere, they had managed to collect the discarded bouquet. In their other hand was the lone flower the singer herself had pitched. They held it up to her. I'm sorry. But the flowers, I lied. They weren't from him. They never were to begin with. The singer clapped over her mouth in shock. What? You tricked me! Her cry rejected clear as a bell, ringing with hurt and betrayal. Her pristine face was crumbled in a furious scowl, directed first at the friend and then everyone else in the room. And you were all in on it. The friend darted to her side in an effort to placate? I don't know, babbling apologies over and over with a mollifying tone. I know, I'm a terrible friend and I shouldn't have done it. Finally something we can agree on. Fine, I deserve that, but just hear me out, okay? Even though they weren't from him, there's nothing stopping you from flipping this on its head. I'm not sure I like where this is going. I'm a singer, not an acrobat. It's easy. When he comes back, why don't you give the flowers to him? The singer stared blankly for a few seconds and tossed her head back and bellowed with laughter. Her once lyrical voice was now cold and callous and timbre? Oh, my darling friend, you should really consider joining the circus. I've never heard something so ludicrous. This is serious. I just know it'll work. Believe me, I'll be rooting for you, and not only me. You all think so too, right, gang? At their prompting, the room was filled with shouts of agreement. Yeah, we'll be right behind you. It's okay, don't be afraid. What have you got to lose? The comments came bright and fast. More people pitched in with remarks about what had happened. While the singer was gone, others simply nodded along. No, she'd readily dismissed her friend's suggestion. The audience's reaction seemed to be more convincing. She stood in the middle of the flurry of sound, head cocked, listening intently. At that very moment, there was a shuffling behind the curtain entrance. The fabric parted to reveal the bartender carrying a palm-sized metal bowl piled high with ice. For the second time this evening, everyone froze in place. The singer slowly rotated on her heels to face him. His eyes were wide with surprise. Suddenly, she stumbled forward. Their mutual friend had given her a nudge, knocking her off balance and toward the bartender. Aww. Please tell him you love him. She wheeled around to glare at them, before snatching the single flower her friend still held and about facing once more. She laughed a thin, nervous laugh and took one small step closer. A wide expanse separated them. Her footfalls echoed. 1 step, 2 steps. Then she halted. Too afraid to continue, she wavered on the brink of turning back. All at once, the crowd made good on their promise. Hollers of encouragement came from the booths from behind her. Whoops and cheers and whistles of "Don't give up now!" Come on, girl, believe in you! You applaud along with the crowd. Stay quiet on the edge of your seat. I think I will applaud. Once again, the singer crept across the room as though expecting to be attacked at any moment. The bartender was a statue, watching motionless. Inch by inch, the distance closed. When only a few feet remained to separate them, the singer paused. She cast an anxious look from her target to where you and Baxter were sitting. At your side, Baxter smiled and inclined his head in a nod. You followed suit, nodding in kind. Go on. With the poise and slowness of a puppet yanked on the string, she extended her arm. The flower gleamed in the dim light of the bar, a flush of red, hanging in the air between them. The bloom was fragile, frail, and vulnerable, like a naked, helpless heart, offered up in prayer. Everyone in the room held their breath. The two held each other's gazes, neither speaking a word. He knew and she knew. This time it was real. The bartender silently placed a bowl of ice down on the bar, a moment of choice, crossroads. Then he walked over and stretched out his fingers. He caressed the petals of the single rose, light as a feather, and then he placed his fingers over hers and gently lifted the flower free. He had accepted. The response was immediate. The space exploded with applause, cries of delight coming from all and sundry. On sundry? The friend jumped up and down on the spot, suppressing a squeal. High fives were exchanged. There were wolf whistles and roars of approval. Baxter and you shared a look of silent satisfaction. Amid the jubilation, the bartender returned to the counter to retrieve the bowl of ice. Maybe it was a metaphor. The winter coat swapped for the first blooms of spring. He hastened over to you and dropped a handful of cold, possibly metaphors in Baxter's glass. He parted again with a wink. After that first climactic moment, the remainder of the story barreled ahead. No sooner had the lovers begun to open up to one another than further complications reared their heads. First came the parents, who had also claims the two were fated. They were keen to see the match, and when the satisfaction lording it over everyone. Nobody could bear the thought of granting them the satisfaction, and so began the elaborate schemes to keep the two families out of the loop. Tragedy devolved into farce. Are we watching fucking Romeo and Juliet all of a sudden? At every step, the audience had a part to play. One scene saw a group of patrons acting as a diversion, keeping one of the parents occupied while the lovers made their escape. In another, Baxter was recruited to slide secret notes along the bar while nobody was looking. Even the band got to help, swapping one song in the program for another without warning. The singers defied aria transmuted into one of passionate, heartfelt longing. It was a flurry, the characters coming and going with a chaotic energy you normally could only see at a distance on a stage. And all through the careful, coordinated mayhem, the actual waiter diligently continued to cater to the patrons, serving more drinks, clearing tables, and lighting candles. He ducked and weaved between chairs and bar stools and the other characters, sometimes even participating in the action, but normally fading into the background. At one point, the singer and he almost collided and would have sent a particularly hefty tray flying, but it was all part of the performance and they both expertly caught the glasses before they fell. Too loud approbation from the audience. The journey was precarious, full of twists and turns, but with everyone's help, the protagonists were finally able to face their feelings for each other. Hardly anyone could have resisted getting caught up in it. When the confession came at last, the deafening cheer went up. But too short a kiss and the room was plunged into darkness. The band struck up a lively tune, and when the lights came back on, all the actors took their bows to well-earned applause that seemed to last for hours. Finally, the floor cleared, the lamps dimmed to their usual twilight. It was finished, love had triumphed, at least for one night. With that show over, things wound down for the evening. There was no more performances booked, although it was still a good while until closing. People could enjoy the room as a normal bar. The band continued to play and patrons milled about with their drinks. Some people were animatedly discussing the performance. I feel like I'm saying disgusting. Discussing the performance you'd just seen. The atmosphere was convivial. Baxter let out a contented sigh and fiddled absentmindedly with his second baby Bellini. He barely touched it since it arrived. Seeing that you were aimlessly looking around, he caught your eye with a tilt of the head and a quirk of his brow.
What do you think?
Now then, was the show to your liking? I'm all ears, and you can be honest, it can be a lot to take in. I like how it's very, interactive, and you had the option to interact. I feel like most plays don't have that. So, at least I had the experience. Are you kidding? It was so fun. It was pretty interesting. It was really wonderful. I guess I've seen worse shows before. It was really wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. They put a lot of effort into their craft. The dedication to entertainment is commendable. You might be interested to know the shows aren't always like this. They have quite a wide selection of different genres. The murder mysteries are always popular, but I wasn't sure how to feel about an interactive performance with the capacity for violence. Those can get rather intense, to say the least. Even the play we just saw is rarely performed the same way twice, as far as I've heard. They often chop and change the premise, shuffling the characters and events around as needed. You recall this ever-suffering friend desperate to help the fated couple find love. Well, some nights it is they who charms the heart of the singer, or the bartender. In that situation, the third party is instead refusing their help out of kindness, not wanting to get in the way of their own possible romance. Sometimes the characters' families detest one another, Romeo and Juliet style. The fact that I mentioned that earlier. On those nights, the singer and the bartender dislike each other too, but pretend to fall in love in order to spite their own parents. And then, of course, it happens for real. We love that. We love a fake dating trope. And on rare occasions, they simply play hard to get, faking a quarrel for no reason other than to frustrate their would-be matchmakers and laugh at them with the guests in private. So you see, there's an enormous potential for telling a whole host of different stories, but usually the core idea is the same. The two characters, for whatever reason, are always talking past each other, always failing to communicate, and it's up to the audience to lend a hand. I think it's a fascinating concept, personally, a very novel form of entertainment. You listened attentively to Baxter's explanation. Regardless of what you thought of the performance, it was nice to hear him passionate about something. He spun from side to side on his bar stool, a dry smirk on his face. I mean, as long as he's happy, that's all that matters, right? He took us here. He's in his element. I suppose I find the fundamental concept rather amusing too. It's so obvious from the outside, the way the characters let their pride become an obstacle to their own happiness. As I said before, if they want each other so desperately, what point is there in saying the opposite? It's plainly not right to yourself and the one you care for, and so unpalatable that it compels us and the supporting cast to action. Just right for interactive theater, I suppose. Yeah, being honest with yourself is a choice, and so is being dishonest. People's feelings aren't always as easy as that, though. Everyone has their own struggles. Are you saying you've never pretended to be something you're not? Of course. Baxter Ward couldn't understand the concept of being shy. He declined to comment. I mean, I have a feeling he gets shy sometimes. Probably not. We've never actually... I don't think we've actually seen it. We've seen him got flustered. But being honest with yourself is a choice. We're of one mind on the subject that knowing where you stand with yourself is the first step of relating to other people. Eventually, a little voice in the back of your head prompted you to speak again. About tonight. Thank you for bringing me along, I mean. It's a date, right? You said it was a date, right? I can't recall. But, as long as Baxter, you know, he knows... I feel like he's not one to shy away from his feelings, clearly. Because, you know, the sightseeing chapter where he's like, this is a date, right? It felt like a date, and it was a date, and eventually, but he didn't count it as a date because our first date was the coffee date, which went terrible. But anyway, thank you guys for watching today's episode. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.